Cool, so thanks very much for coming and spending half an hour with myself, Andrew and Dee, a client of ours from Breakthrough Breast Cancer. In the next 30 minutes, we're really going to do a pretty whistle-stop tour through kind of online video under the kind of rough and broad banner from brief to ROI, which, I'm sure there's going to be plenty to talk about for 30 minutes. I mean, just so I can get a feel for the audience, how many of you, if you didn't mind doing a kind of show of hands, how many of you are involved in video production in some form or other? And how many in kind of commissioning video or buying video? And how many just watching it on YouTube when you should be at work? Right, cool, okay. So I'm going to talk for about 10 minutes probably. We've got about 10 minutes of video to show you. The main centrepiece is a piece of work we've just finished for Breakthrough Breast Cancer that I'll leave Dee to introduce later. And I've got a couple of little things to show you as well because it's more interesting than listening to me. So really briefly, I guess just to kick off and contextualise, I thought it was important to talk a bit about the kind of case for online video and why we think you should do it. We're then going to look a little bit about what makes a good video, and to that end we've actually produced a film called the How to Make a Film, which is fairly smug but quite watchable. And then lastly we're going to look at a case study from Breakthrough Breast Cancer, a piece of animation we've just finished making for them that Dee will talk you through. We've not paid Dee to be here, we've asked her to be as honest as possible, so hopefully it won't feel too much like you're being sold to. So why video? I mean, I thought I wanted to just be as honest as I could about this, and listening to the audience, it's a real mix between producers and commissioners and kind of skivers at work. I mean, there's an absolute ton of statistics about why online video makes sense, and it kind of really depends on your niche or your audience. I mean, a lot of what we do at Casual Films is around online content, largely for HR and marketing. So, there are a ton of statistics, and if you want a few, because it would be useful for you to take some back to work, come and chat to me at the end and I'll fire some at you. I mean, from, a piece of CERN research that was done last year showed that a recruitment job listing with a video on it was 7 times more watched than one that didn't have a video, and attracted 5 times more applications. I guess more broadly in terms of sort of just direct marketing and advertising, there's loads of statistics out there about Google, and I think since they purchased YouTube, they're really ramping up the algorithm around videos so that you're 50 times more likely to get on the first page of a Google search listing if you've got video on your website. And I don't know, have a punt. I think it's becoming increasingly a sort of gross negative disqualifier in terms of how Google constructs its algorithm around relevant search results. So they're all good reasons, right? Also, I think from a creative perspective, video often fits into the sort of cell of an integrated campaign. I mean, increasingly the sort of message that comes out of kind of agencies and design agencies, marketing companies is, designing for the stack, thinking about social, thinking about pushing content out onto various platforms, consumption via mobile, consumption via tab. None of these devices are designed for kind of large reams of text. So video is perfect for fitting into that sort of creative rationale around larger campaigns. And largely, and I guess kind of significantly, a lot of video gets made because the client wants one, for no real good reason other than it's kind of in the client expectation. And I think the reason why I wanted to kind of contextualize it with this is that it's really relevant when we come on to sort of, the hallowed marketing term of ROI at the end of this presentation. ROI is only defined by what your original intentions were at the start, and how intelligent or how quantifiable they were. And we'll come on to say a bit more about that in a bit. The first of our 3 films, we made this about 6 months ago. I hope you can hear it. It's very noisy in here. It's about how to make a film.
So, you want to make a film? Well, you've come to the right place because we'd like to show you how we do that here at Casual Films. Now, before I begin, I should probably explain that each film we make is different, so don't worry if we don't do every single step in this process in this order for every production. Either way, there are 3 steps: pre-production, production, and post-production. Pre-production is where the briefing, planning and organising happens.
Okay, ideally you'll have completed a briefing document that acts as a framework for the project. This will include things like your objectives, your audience, deadlines, and an idea for your budget. If you know exactly what you want, that's great. Otherwise, we'll provide you with 3 concepts from which you can pick one that you want us to develop further. Once you've chosen, we'll write a script that will go through various drafts until you're happy that it's right. And then next up is the storyboard. Now this is where you get an idea for the film's composition, how it will flow from scene to scene.
Depending on the treatment, we may need to find a voiceover artist or some actors to star in your film. Or you may want your own staff to feature. Our team have experience in teasing out confident performances in even the most timid staff. The last part of pre-production is working out where we're going to film. Now, you may already have somewhere in mind, or we'll find the right place and obtain permission to shoot there.
Production is where we shoot the film.
Most films are shot with a core team of 3 people: a director/camera operator, a sound recordist, and an assistant. We include a standard lighting setup with our film packages. This is suitable for 90% of applications. However, it's really easy to add anything extra if you need a few more bells and whistles. Other pieces of equipment we may use are dollies and jib cranes for fancy moving camera shots. These make the film look just that bit sexier. We can even use helicopters and pyrotechnics, but they're not always necessary.
Depending on the setup, location sound can be recorded straight into camera using directionally and radio microphones. If we record audio separately, we use a clash to help editors synchronize picture and sound.
Voiceovers are recorded in our soundproof studio. Now is the winter of our discontent. Shakespeare.
Post-production is where we bring all the footage and sound together. This section differs slightly for live action and animation.
Live action editing takes roughly a day per every minute of film. We'll compile a rough cut for you to review. Remember that this is only a draft, so don't be concerned if it looks rough. 80% of the polishing is done in the last 20% of the production time. With your feedback, we'll then work together to produce a film that we're all happy with. We'll then have the film sent for grading, where the colour is tweaked to make it look right stylistically. This is where the film will finally be looking its best.
Animation takes a little more time at around 3 to 30 seconds per day. This varies depending on the level of complexity you'd like. With animation, we'll begin by showing you 2 basic elements, the style and the animatic. This is just a rough video with a temporary voiceover that brings the storyboard to life. It's very important to make sure everybody's happy, to avoid spending lots of time amending at a later date. The animator then works through the approved storyboard with time for a few tweaks before the final sign-off.
We then look at the music and master the sound. This makes all the difference to the viewing experience of the film. If you want to use a well-known commercial song in your film, we can purchase the rights for you, although this can be very costly. You may prefer our own in-house music team to compose something especially for you. If there's no budget for that, no problem. With your help, we can source something from our extensive royalty-free library. The process of adding sound effects like this, or this, is called sound design. And this is crucial in animation or dramatic live action films for adding that extra layer of magic and helping to really tie the whole thing together. Finally, the sound is mixed and mastered to make sure all the levels are just right as a final audio cherry on top. Delicious.
Once all of this is done, we prepare the video for delivery by encoding and compressing the raw footage into the format that you require. For the internet, this is usually MP4, QuickTime, or Flash.
Now you just sit back and watch as your film enlightens and engages audiences wherever you show it. This has been How to Make a Film. Thanks for watching.
Cool. Okay. So, I mean, if you replace all of the kind of we and the kind of more salesy bits of that, hopefully that process, that sort of pre-production, production, post, really does kind of answer the kind of title of the presentation about from brief to ROI. And I think, you know, regardless of whether you use Casual Films or any other supplier, they're the kind of broad steps that the production process will follow. So I kind of thought it was worth showing. I mean, coming on to I don't know, I guess a bit of a slightly more philosophical look at from brief to ROI. I think, a question we're often asked and our clients are really interested in is like, well, is it good though? Is it going to be a good film? And I think that going back to those reasons why film is commissioned in the first place, the definition of whether it's a good film or not is slightly flaky and kind of quite difficult to pin down. We've done quite a lot of thinking about this and beard stroking, and we kind of think that there are broadly three ways in which you can define quality in video production and whether it's any good. The first is around the quality of the message. This is kind of about the production values, how it makes you feel when you watch it, how shiny it looks, how clear the narrative is, how well constructed it is, and how relevant for its audience. All these kind of like crafty definitions of, has that brief and product been a success? Now, these are the sorts of things that typically production companies such as ourselves focus on because it's the stuff that we have the most control over. So it becomes our kind of definition of good. I think a kind of secondary one is around reach, and this is a kind of interesting area because it kind of overlaps the kind of commissioning and production cycle in which both parties have a role to play. So reach is around just the numbers and the metrics, and it's increasingly being seen as like the way of kind of justifying whether a film commission was worthwhile or not, or whether it was good or not. So the number of hits it receives on YouTube, the number of applications or sales that it generates. Now, I mean, this is a kind of really interesting area for us, but it's one that typically, being really honest about it, most production companies will kind of nod and tell you they know a lot about, but they don't really. The basic industry dynamic involves us kind of putting a bow on our film and giving it to the client and saying, oh, it's finished. Do you like it? There's very rarely much integration in terms of strategy across the kind of production and consumption cycle of the film, which makes it quite difficult for me to sit here hand on heart and say, about reach figures for a lot of our productions. I mean, we have been involved, I think, in an area that's quite interesting around DRTV, and I guess maybe Dee might touch on this a bit later. A couple of other charity clients of ours we've been involved in producing DRTV commercials for, and they're kind of handy because, it's on telly, it wants you to donate some money, and then people text in and donate afterwards. One we produced recently had sort of 5,500 subscribers, and they reckon that a kind of comparable amount of investment in kind of leafleting and print would have generated between 1,000 and 2,000. So, there are some tentative stats we can clutch at, but I guess the message here is whether you're producing or whether you're commissioning film, have a think about making that reach and that integration of the film itself into the sort of media plan and sort of give the production company a decent chance of building that into the brief, and then you'll have a much more likely good ROI as defined by reach as quality of film production. And I guess linked to that lastly, and I'm talking for a bit too long, impact and action is the kind of holy grail for us. So, looking at what did that film want to achieve and how well did it do, and trying to make that as quantifiable and measurable as possible. I mean, one of the reasons our films are largely so cheap is that we struggle to attach our workflow to the end value that it creates. So we're left, charging out an editor day and a kind of filmmaker day on a film that might save a client £3 million. We'll still be charging out as if we're building a wall. And I think the closer production companies can get to understanding the impact and action of their content, then the more intelligent that market might shift. So just to try and be, helpful, most of the films that we make start off with a brief that's something like we need to feature this many people, or it needs to be this kind of story, or it needs to be this long, and we've got this many pounds. And when you're straight into that conversation, you've kind of lost it a little bit in terms of your ability to look at ROI, because all you can say is, did we go over budget? Did we feature all the people they wanted us to feature? I think the best films we make start with these kinds of conversations. And I really wanted it to be just 5 questions, but it's not. It's kind of 9 questions, but only 5 of them have got numbers against them. So the take-home message is it's your film in 5 questions. So who is the primary audience? How should we speak to them? What's the purpose? What are the parameters we're working within? And how will you measure success? If as a production company you know all of those, you're in a good place. If you're commissioning film and you've told someone all of those, you're in a good place too. And I think that's when film really comes alive and can sing and really help. Now, I just wanted to show a kind of 1-minute film, which I think is quite a good example of that. It's for another charity called ESCOS, and their role and goal is to find governors for schools. So they wanted a film that was about a minute and a half long, and we had this kind of conversation, and we realised the audience was really divergent. It was people that might go and become governors. It was employers that might want to let their people go out as a CSR effort, and it was schools and head teachers themselves. And it's one that we've just finished, and it combines live action and animation as well, which I hope will sort of segue nicely into the work we've done with Breakthrough Breast Cancer, which was a kind of fully fledged 2D animation piece. So here's one last film, and then I'll shush, and then you'll have Dee.
What if you use the skills you learnt at work to give back to your community? As school governors, our meetings go way beyond what you'd expect. We approve the budgets that improve schools.
We ensure the right staff are in the right places and give them the support and feedback they need.
We make sure the head teacher is the right person for the job and set strategic direction, policies and aims.
We examine school finances, review progress and objectives, and ask the right questions of senior staff.
So that schools run efficiently and provide the best possible education for every child.
Our workplaces benefit too, because we learn new soft skills and the complex strategies needed to help manage schools.
We meet new people and feel closer to our communities because we're making a real and positive impact.
We're the people who support and challenge.
From all walks of life.
Volunteering just a few hours every month.
To bring real benefits to schools and workplaces, communities and children.
Cool. Okay, well, thanks for listening. I'd like to introduce Dee Gardner from Breakthrough Breast Cancer. We've started working with Dee just last year, and we've got a lovely film to show you afterwards.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Can everybody hear me? This part of the presentation is I want to just take you through what it was like working with Andrew and his team and why we actually commissioned the video in the first place and what we hope to achieve by it. To be brutally honest, we conducted a brand review at the charity a couple of years ago, and what we wanted to do was look for an animation style that we could use consistently across a lot of our communications. We deal with an issue, breast cancer is a tough issue to get over to people and can actually be quite scary, so we wanted to develop an animation style that we could get over to hard health issues over to different audiences. And also the work we do, a lot of work that we do involves scientific research. Again, this is a really difficult subject to get over to people, and we felt that if we adapt an animation style and make these messages more engaging, people were more likely to watch them. So we had to start somewhere. And the subject that we started with was the history of our charity. We've been working since 1991, and a lot of footage just doesn't exist from our early days to tell our story. And so we decided that what we would do was, whilst we knew our story verbally, what we would do was apply an animated style so we could get over our history to various different audiences. Initially, and the purist marketeers in here will get slightly alarmed by this, we didn't have a marketing plan. We didn't look at return on investment. We didn't look at those hard questions that a lot of the marketeers would go, what the hell have you done that for? Now, that is quite a tough question to answer, because obviously we are a charity and we have to be responsible with our money, and these animations aren't cheap. And so initially with this history video, that we will be using it to engage Breakthrough staff. You'll see it when I finish talking. It is quite an emotional film, but it's also quite upbeat, and it's important that our staff at the charity really engage with our cause and are proud to work with the organisation and understand what we do. It will be used at new business meetings. We rely totally on donations from the public to do our work, and one of our main partners that we work with are corporate businesses that have the ability to give us and other charities millions of pounds. So whilst it's difficult, therefore, to put a return on investment figure on this, on this video, but if we are to win a Charity of the Year partnership as a result of somebody watching this video that leads to millions of pounds for our organisation, then it's paid for itself millions of times over. And we want to start to tell our story more effectively through engaging content. Andrew's already talked about the multiple platforms that you have these days, the opportunities for you to tell a story. Nobody wants to read a story now, they want to watch a story. So this is the beginning of a journey for us, and just to go back to the fact that we wanted to create a clear, consistent, animated style that would be used across all our animated video in future. So where will it appear? Obviously to embrace staff with the organisation that they've just joined. It would be used at staff inductions. It's certainly, Andrew's mentioned as well, it will be used in the recruitment process so people can get an idea of what kind of organisation they're about to join. We will use it obviously through social media. We already have just put it out. It's just a soft push of this video that's largely gone to our fans and to our followers. And we've got some interesting feedback on it. And also in new business meetings, as I've just said. So measuring success, back to the purest marketeers. We've spent money on this, so what return on that investment are we actually hoping to get? At this point, we are monitoring donations. The video does have an ask on it. We didn't want to put a video out that was video for its own sake, and it is a donate video, but without having a clear marketing plan for how we're going to actually push that out and elicit more donations, I can't really give you much feedback at the moment on that. And also we're just monitoring from social media what the anecdotal feedback has actually been, which has been actually quite positive. People have said that support us, that they're proud that they support us, they're delighted to know that their supporters let some of the breakthroughs that we've actually had as a result of their work. So a bit of the sales pitch, what it's like working with Casual Films. We learnt a lot. My team and I, none of us had made any animation before. None of us had written scripts for things. And what seems blindingly obvious now was a really big learning curve for us. Gaily writing away our history that, when you commit this to film, ended up something like half an hour. And we just thought, oh my lord, we were aiming to get at least 4 minutes at the most. So back and forward with the scripts. Key things learning like 75 words is half a minute. It's hard to tell your story in half a minute and 75 words. But we've learned so much from this about how we will adapt now to be able to get over key messages much more quickly and in a much more engaging way. Now, working with Casual Films, they brought some great ideas and some great creative tools, pushed us, and challenged us on a lot of the things that we said. They were very patient with us as well, coaxed us into losing certain things and gaining certain things, which we needed to hear, because what's very precious to us isn't necessarily very precious to potential audiences, so they were challenging us on that. And also, Andrew's mentioned, they were able to negotiate great rates on our behalf. Again, we don't have money to burn, and the voiceover is Julian Ryan-Tutt, that's why he's sitting on there, and Casual Films were able to get him to donate the voiceover free for us, and he's quite nice as well. So just to wrap up before you actually see the video, what we want to do now is really make concrete plans for the type of communications that we are going to develop using this animated style at Breakthrough. A lot of it will literally be focusing around those hard to get over issues and scary issues that we have to communicate with people when we are talking about breast cancer. We will We will then, obviously, through those particular videos, have clear marketing plans of who we are going to get those messages to. So I suppose, if I'm being completely honest, this is about the only piece of vanity work that in my whole career we have ever done. So, Andrew, here is the video.
It's not half an hour long anymore.
No, it's not.
In 1986, the actress Toby Robbins died of breast cancer, aged just 55. Her husband, Bill Friedman, and their family looked carefully at the issue of breast cancer, only to find that the UK had one of the highest mortality rates in the world, with 15,000 women dying from the disease every year. After speaking to surgeons, scientists, and every cancer charity in the country, they discovered that there was no organisation in the UK devoted entirely to breast cancer research. In 1991, Breakthrough Breast Cancer was founded, and an appeal was started to raise the funds to build a research centre specifically focused on breast cancer. We would need £15 million and the help and support of thousands to make it happen. In 1990, the young businesswoman Mary Jean Mitchell Green died of breast cancer, aged just 38. Before she died, she created a foundation to fund breast cancer research, and after her death, £1.3 million was given to the appeal by her husband Peter and her 2 young sons. The Breakthrough £1,000 Challenge was launched, asking 15,000 people to each raise £1,000. Avon Cosmetics, Breakthrough's longest corporate supporter, launched its Breast Cancer Crusade and raised £1 million for Breakthrough in just one day. By 1996, countless companies, individuals, trusts and celebrities had come together to raise funds for the cause. Fashion Targets Breast Cancer launched, and the t-shirt became a powerful statement of the fight against the disease, raising over £400,000. In 1999, Breakthrough hit its £15 million target, and the Breakthrough Research Centre was opened by the Prince of Wales. Breakthrough started campaigning for improvements in breast cancer services and treatments, ensuring the voices of women affected by the disease were heard by the NHS and national government. We began educating women in the UK to recognise the warning signs of breast cancer, as early diagnosis offers the best chance of survival. New fundraising partnerships emerged with some of the best-known high street names taking our message to their customers. 20 years on, the impact of our work has been outstanding. Our biggest breakthrough was developing a new drug known as a PARP inhibitor. The drug targets tumours directly while leaving healthy cells alone, so patients have fewer side effects. Our discovery has led to more than 40 clinical trials worldwide. We launched the Breakthrough Generations Study, studying 100,000 women over 40 years, resulting in the most reliable information on why women develop breast cancer. We secured a commitment from the government of a maximum 2-week wait from referral to first hospital appointment. We regularly reach 3/4 of the UK's population with our TLC, Touch, Look, Check health message, promoting the signs and symptoms of breast cancer. We began our work in Scotland, opening the Breakthrough Breast Cancer Research Unit in Edinburgh, and campaigning for improvements in Scottish healthcare for women affected by breast cancer. We fund 25% of the breast cancer research in the UK, including over 270 scientists in the Breakthrough Breast Cancer Research Centre and 2 research units elsewhere in the UK. Our work is only possible due to the generosity of the public. We need to raise £20 million a year to continue our work. With commitment and support, we're confident that we can stop women dying from some types of breast cancer within the next 10 years. The only thing that can stop this happening is lack of funds. 32 women die every day from breast cancer in the UK. Please support our work to stop women dying from breast cancer.
Sure. I don't think we got that long for questions. I think it's time up. I'm getting a signal. But thanks very much for joining. If you've got any questions you want to ask me or Dee, we'll be around for coffee afterwards. Thanks.